Hey everybody, Mobile Rager here again with the top 3 type of video on this channel, saying words on a Google tab. But it's very different this time because we got a new game for the channel. It's a game I've been playing as long as I've been, I guess kind of just like for as long as it's been around, that's what I'm trying to say. But it's also one of the first mobile games I played, so, My Singing Monsters. No, I'm not gonna try to explain another game again and again to the audience. But it's sort of like, Dragon Veil stuff in that genre where you breed creatures together and it makes new creatures and you put them. But rather than the combat focus that tends to take those kind of games, it's parts to a song. And every island is a new song. That's the truncated version. As time has gone on, the sort of the progression of this game is more of a months to years kind of thing. Opposed to other games, something like how World of Mayhem worked, where it was just, like a team comes out, they take a month or two to release, and that's that. Like that's the team's lot. Unless they want to go expand it years later. But that's generally how this game operates too, but on a much different scale. And they may release one like fully original monster a month because they have to design a whole new creature and compose a whole part for it. Like it makes sense, but what that means is there's a lot of room for speculation, especially at the present moment where sort of all the big sagas and stuff they'd been working up towards over time are sort of coming to an end. Almost have the last Islet, Paranormal Carnival's almost done, the last Titan Souls almost certainly gonna release this year. So I sort of release room for, okay, well, what's next? I mean, while I was compiling the images and script for this video and stuff, they just randomly dropped like 3 new kinds of dipster. They're like rare and epic dipsters, and then just a dipster version on Celestial Island. It's a whole can of worms. But the point being, people in this community like to speculate. And since now is kind of a ripe speculation period, I thought, I think I want to talk about it. So I've made this compilation tier list here, a little zoomed in because they ended up being hard to read. Okay, but I don't know. Tier like wisdom. I know that this is only unconfirmed things, so for the record, what I'm treating as confirmed are the things I already mentioned. The Poison Islet, as well, the last primordial that would be on it, but Poison Islet, rest of Paranormal Carnival monsters, the rest of the dipsters, a second Wordo on Firehaven, as well as Wordos on Oasis. Will that be another set of collabs, or the combination that never got used for the natural islands? Doesn't really matter. I mean, it'd be weird if one fire island got Wordos and the others just didn't have one forever. Not forever, but the last legendary for Earth Island, or not last, but point of conversation. Elder Celestials, I know they didn't happen this month, but like, to be honest, I already fully expected them to not happen this month. Like, I mean, the adult Celestials came out 5 years after the 5-year anniversary of Celestial Island, so I don't think it's unreasonable for Elders to be the 10-year anniversary of Celestial Island, so that'd be 2028. So basically, any just unfinished variant class or unfinished island or the Elder Celestials, I'm treating it as nailed down. I'm also throwing rare and epic primordials, even though they don't exist yet, but since the way the islets function, and literally the hint menu in the game tells you this, like since only the commons get the Unity tree boost, and they're 2 entire islands at this point, I think. At the very least, Plasma Islet, but I think with the Rare Invention, Mech Islet has all of its applicable monsters for if there were to be rare primordial and it uses the same You have to acquire all the commons. That was carried over. That it would also, like, those would be the only two applicable islands. Point being. So, like, my point being is neither of those are particularly soon, but they're, like, going to happen. I mean, at the rate everything else on this tier list is, I mean, some are in flux, some they can just drop in a random Wednesday. Some would probably take years, but, yeah, we'll get to it. So yeah, those are all the things I'm treating as confirmed and why they're not here. Otherwise, 30 different things. I've done enough preliminary stalling. So the first up on the docket is a celestial expansion. Now I'm putting this here because there is not a chance, assuming that they do this, and it's coming with the elders. And I already said the elders aren't for 2 years minimum. I mean, like, they could not. Like, people say, oh, they missed their opportunity this year because they've started every celestial thing with Skartar of all Mons for some reason. But they could, like, not do that. They could not start with Skartar for the 4th time in a row. Actually, that's not even true. The original celestial islands have Skartar on it. What am I talking about? Where? The adults started with Skartar. Like, the elders don't have to. But, that is the expectation since, the rare, so to speak, started that way. But yeah, since, and also a part 2 of this, looking at the actual image itself, I might just flip these over to another tab to will not let me. I mean, I made all of these, so I can just, like, open it up on my computer, but I'm lazy. Alright, here, I'll super omega zoom in. You can see there's Assume, Plan Island, Vamp on mech. Just the island of whatever element they represent. Which, of course, would, in other instances, wouldn't be soon, as it would require Poison Island. Not that that's far away speaking. Yeah, I mean, they could totally shadow drop it during Anniversary Month. I would not be surprised at all if they did that. But, would require Poison Island to be out. I think it would be cool. Like, it'd be nice for Plant Island to get something new, since it hasn't had anything new since its Colossi 3 years ago. Not positive how Celestials on the islets would work, but, like, also who the hell knows how epics on the islets would work. Not that those are correlated in any way, but, like, they're gonna have to make new island mechanics at some point, so. I mean, I guess, to be fair, on Amber, the epics are just rarer versions of the rares, which I would say is like, well, they don't want to do that, because that's how it always works, but to be fair, the islet rares are like the commons, which isn't true on Amber Island. It's not out of contention. But anyways, next up, we have the current seasonals on the recent islands. So what I mean by recent islands, which is kind of the same thing as this one here, to be honest, which I'll just put in the middle for now, is islands that came after the great updating of the Ox seasonals. So which is basically just Workshop, Carnival, the islets, and Mythical Island. So yeah. I guess I'm gonna put the dipsters back down for a second. Okay, fine. Put the dipsters in the final talking point. I'll get to them in a second. Now for the current seasonal, I think it goes either way. Like, it would certainly be the easiest way of getting seasonals on those islands, especially for, like, Workshop there. Like, I use Monoculus as an example. It's be completely reasonable fit for Workshop. I think the one thing that'd be the Warren and the side of that, besides what do you put on the islets? Like, what would you have 9 instances of Monoculus? Or would be something fresh. They could do something like put the respective core sentinels on them, like Punkleton goes to the Plasma Islet. Although again, how would an islet get him? Like, would be the mechanic for painting seasonals on an islet? Who knows? I mean, that would sort of solve that conundrum. The one other thing that would make that a little complicated is everyone wouldn't, I don't think there'd be a good way to get everyone evenly represented there. It's kind of up in the air, especially since we should probably get this one's accompanying prediction. New seasonals. Now, part of both of this is I'm just not of the belief they'll make any like completely new seasonal monsters. Because it's a pretty jam-packed schedule as it is. Like, unless they're gonna put 2 seasonal events in like basically every month. Like, there are already some that double back on each other all the time, like the whole 3-day, like even the ones that have gaps are kind of like, aside from January, which is like now perpetually empty, it's kind of nothing. Like it's kind of a full schedule. Cause you go like Crescendo Moon to Seasonal Love. Then I mean like a week between there and Clover Spell, but then like Clover Spell becomes Extravaganza like instantly basically. And then that becomes like Echoes of Ego basically at the same time. And then like bit of a gap for Plexoplore, but then it's like Life Formula and Sky Painting happens right after, and Sky Painting jump. The point being, it's kind of an odd space for more fully new seasonal events. So, especially since presumably they would also have to go on Shanty. Not the alternate idea that I'm proposing, which is essentially, I'm doing a very roundabout way of explaining this, but this idea is they make another seasonal monster, but it belongs to a pre-existing seasonal event. So rather having Monoculus for the 4th time on Ethereal Workshop, they make a second Life Formula monster. And of course, the other ones, same would apply to the other examples on the image. Now, this also has sort of a similar, different issue. Well, it fills up pretty easily for the islands themselves, because you just kind of pick an element that works good-ish and go from there. It creates a bit of a mess on Shanty, because presumably what these would be, because they said when Shanty was coming out, is the Ox seasonals, or sort of like double elements for the core seasonals. So presumably, these new monsters would be like the triples, but at least at this present moment, there's not enough islands, I don't think. I mean, because we have 3 of them in that image. And then the islets, which would be 5. Presumably, I'll go on a limb, maybe. No, but why would it? No, because of carnival mechanics, so no, they wouldn't be separate. So it'd be like 8. To be honest, I don't know how many triple elements are for 5 elements. It should just be an amount of. Wait, let me do some reverse math. So there's 15. I know this. Let me just go look up a Ethereal Workshop. It's that much quicker. Got yeah, 16 comments. That was correct. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, so that's 4. I say, yeah, so there's 10. Yeah, there's 10 to a full 31 cast monsters, so there's 2 islands short. So that would be the big hoopla there. It'd be like a weird amount of monsters on Shanty. Kind of like the apocalypse, I guess, but I'd assume they'd want it in a relatively consistent sense. So, and like, those are kind of the only options for getting seasonals on those islands. So that's why I'm like sort of 50-50 on both, because like it's one of two, and both of them have their issues. And then in terms of the dipsters, almost forgot about them. With the random huge dipster update we just got, I think it would be pretty likely. Because, like, the dipsters, for specifically the workshop, like I put in this image, I mean, there's already dipsters on the third island itself. I don't think it would be that strange for them to be on the being workshop. Carnival, and who knows, but it'll delay it. I just imagine the concept of fuging dipsters and found it really funny. Okay, actually, maybe not on Carnival. Carnival, maybe a little strange for dipsters. But at the very least, like Workshop and Mythical Island could probably. I don't think it'd be that weird for them to have them. So I'd put those at high plausibility. And then ethereal equivalent for the Fire Islands. Feel kind of the same way about. Now, I'm not positive exactly what these monsters would entail or what they do, since there'd be a whole 2 of them. I saw one concept that was like polarity monsters, so sort of like tying it into electricity a little bit, but it was like one was positive charge and one was negative charge, and then when they made their island, it was like monsters of in between charge ranges, like one was 100%, one was 0%, and then they sort of like zip zap. So like it would require sort of new mechanics to work, but I could see it. And I think it sort of made a point of the whole point of the paranormal is sort of content parody. I mean, also the Titan Souls. But the whole point of both of those is sort of content parody for the Magical Islands. So now, most of them are in pretty good standing. So, but like with the Mirror Islands themselves, since they sort of like the natural islands mirror versions have a connection to their ethereal elements, and the paranormals themselves have a mirror island mechanic. I think like with the mirror islands, like having mirror island versions, it's now the 2 Fire Islands are out of whack because they don't have mirror versions and they don't have ethereal equivalents. So I can see them doing this in a relatively recent sense. Now, it is highly likely that whatever happens with the mirror, like, if they make these, it would be in relation to whatever's going on with the Mirror Fire Islands, which we'll get to. But either way, I don't think they're gonna not have one. So I'm gonna put that there. And the next up is Ethereal Gold Island equivalent. Honestly, this could be shadow dropped an anniversary month. Would not be surprised at all. I think this is pretty soon. Because, like, none of the islets have Bermuda. They're not just gonna cut out Bermuda. Are they nuts? No. there's gonna be a Bermuda. And if there's anything that would have a Bermuda on it, would be a Gold Island equivalent. So yeah, that one's pretty simple at this point. The next step here is the rest of the legendaries getting islands like Sugarbush Island. In brief, I don't think that they would. Because honestly, like, in the history of the game, Sugarbush is kind of a weird monster. I don't know if it's a repeatable thing. Like, I don't know that they exactly care about parody, or at least parody of this measure for the legendary monsters. I also think it would just kind of be a little boring. Like, people aren't huge on Sugarbush Island to begin with, so to roll out 4 more Sugarbush Islands will be like, dog. Especially for like, because one of them would be a BB No Money Island, and it'd be a BB No Money song, and everyone would throw rocks at the developers. Nobody likes BB No Money music. Because like Sugarbush Island is a cover of a real Christian Bush song. Like, I think it would stand to reason that the rest of these islands would also be covers of their respective artists' music. I think Liver Money was new at the time. I don't know exactly if they'd go with like some recent single or if like, you know, in Blizzard's case, they choose like La 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 or something. I don't know. I just kind of don't see it. Especially since they're trying to give legendaries a little sprinkle of something else. I mean, Blizzard didn't get anything, but like, I mean, it's karaoke, but ooh. But yeah, like T Parina has Clubbox and Alcordion. I gotta pause the video here. Why did they call him Alcordion? The rest of them at least like had a like. I mean, I get why they called him that, but like the rest of the names at least had some connection to their island. The Weird Al monster is just Weird Al. Now I love Weird Al. Don't get me wrong. But like, why is he just Weird Al? Like, shouldn't he be some kind of like bird or something? Is Air Island beyond theme, man? Anyways, but like, this Clubbox and he has the new Dipster mini games. I mean, maybe we'll just be the host of all mini games. I don't know. But yeah. So, but getting on the topic of things I wouldn't be that much of a fan of, legendaries for not natural islands. Now, technically, this is already true because there's a Wordville on Firehaven, but like, who counts those? So, you know, what this means is essentially, you know, actual regular legendary monsters like Blizzard or Alcordion. And I'm gonna have the down vote, you know, poo poo in this one. For one, let the natural islands have something, man. Like, come on. Like every other mechanic, natural islands are like the test launch. Oh, you get the version that sucks, like Colossi, and then we have the fun version somewhere else. And I don't want to stand disrespect of the original islands in this game. It was like a vintage monster at this point. Like, you're gonna have 20 of them? That's just silly. Plus, we'd be getting legendaries forever. Because, like, where do you draw the line then? All the breeding islands? Just the fire islands, like the mythicals? Everywhere, like the seasonals? And there's a part, like, the second reason is, like, that'd be a lot of collaboration. And, like, can I even do that? Like, this is not necessarily a big game. I know I'm saying this when they got, like, 3 celebrities in a row, but, like, my point is this isn't Fortnite. I want to be like TF2 Death of an Art style, but, like, how many of these can they do, really? And it would be, like, the primary monsters. The only thing releasing, like, they're not the only thing releasing now. But in terms of new monsters that aren't part of new class that take a year to come out, as is the formula, That'd be all we're getting. You know, I don't know that any fire expansions are happening while Legendary Town is around. And even if every island gets a legendary, like most, seasonals have shanties and the mythicals have mythical islands. What the hell are the legendaries gonna do? They're gonna get 20 people in one room to compose an island? That sounds ridiculous. And reason four, I don't think it is a coincidence at all. Aside from, again, B Lizard, but he's weird. I don't think it's a coincidence that both T Prana and Weird Al came with retention slop updates. Not that they're necessarily bad, but they're definitely designed like mobile game updates, if you catch my drift. Like, they do expect people to spend money on this stuff. And if they have to keep making updates like that for an entire year, I don't think people are not going to be. The reputation of this game is going to be on shaky waters. I think people will start to get pissed at some point if they keep doing this. Oh, I'm gonna have to say no. And also, like, there have been like 4th levities in a row. By guy 15th, I don't know. They may be punching down a little. Like, I've seen what this community suggests. I saw a post on Reddit the other day that said Matt Padwardo. Like, something's wrong. But these people's brains don't work right. No offense. He's not a musician. That's the one qualification, man. Okay, I'm gonna move on from this topic. So, bit of a left field conclusion. But I saw this in someone's predicting 2026 video. To be honest, I thought it was a not terrible idea. Was the seasonals of the Magical Island on Magical Nexus. Now, the logic that this person presented, I think, was pretty sound. Was the regular natural monster, or the core, go to Gold Island? And I mean, it's kind of just vain, but they made a secondary suggestion that we'll get to in a second after this one. That would put. I mean, here we go. Put them together. We'll talk about them at the same time because they're kind of the same update. Was put Gobbledygork and Spirit on Amber Island, so all of the fire-esque seasonals and all of the magical-esque seasonals go to their respective gold islands. So, like, yeah, sure. And admittedly, Ethereal Gold Island would not be surprised at all if, like, I think Ethereal Gold Island would have the primordials on it. Like, what else are they going to do with them? And there's one idea, but we'll get to it. And I wouldn't entirely be surprised if Monoculus showed up. I mean, presumably that island would be in the mirror dimension. So, like, how the hell's Monoculus getting there? But I guess that's a question for another day. Now, I think I am going to put them in the middle there. Because while I don't think there's anything wrong with them implicitly, I'm just not entirely convinced it's something they'll do. Because, like, there is a logic to it. Although one can make the argument for Nexus that it's not exactly, like, scalable. Like, why those... The Sheriff Saber didn't make them. But, it's like... I mean, they're residents on those islands, but, one could say, well, what if more magical islands come out? But that's kind of a Nexus in general problem, so... I suppose cross that bridge when we come to it. I mean, with Amber, there's an explanation for the veins there. Just like, well, I mean, to be fair, it is also the home island of her event. Yeah, I think they're there so that, like, they all showed up on multiple islands. But I don't know. I don't think it'd be a terrible idea. It would be nice for Nexus because it'd be like a fifth set of collections for each one. I guess they'd have to redesign how the Nexus Nucleus looks a little bit. Yeah, I think those are in the spot that they're supposed to be. I mean, they have to redesign the Nexus Nucleus, same possible update. Okay, and then now moving on to another things that have to be explained together. The Mimic Trio, I like to call them. So, long time ago, not that long, but it was a few years ago, when Mimic was originally added during Fire expansion, they made a statement saying, or maybe it was when Mimic was originally added to Dawn of Fire. I have no idea. But when Mimic was added, they made a point that it's not. No, because it was already on Fire Oasis at that point. It would have been for Fire Oasis as an update. They made a statement that it will not exclusively remain on Fire Oasis. Now, that is yet to play out in fruition, but that can mean a lot of things. And I put the 3 most probable things that means on this list. Which does mean this list is 1/10 Mimic, maybe a little more. Some things are Mimic adjacent suggestions. First up on the docket is Mimic on Gold. I'm going to put this on team pretty likely. Now, Gold has not been changed since Jamboree. But again, Jamboree is also monsters on a completely random island that gets to go to Gold. I mean, obviously, it's on Gold, because Gold's technically the Anniversary Month island, but you know what I mean. And since presumably the new legendaries will be on Gold Island sometime soon, I'm assuming while they're updating Gold Island, you have the last natural monster. You might as well. It's right there and already in the game. It already has an incredibly similar mechanic to how it could be on Gold Island. So I think that one's pretty in the bag. And step 2 on islands that contain every other natural monster is Tribal Island. Now this one's harder because Tribal Island has not been updated at all since its release over a decade ago. But if it were to be updated, I could totally see Mimic being a part of that update. And they've played around with the idea of a Tribal Island update. It was on Discord in conversation with some random guy, but I think the idea has crossed its mind because low-key Tribal Island sucks. Mechanics-wise, it is the least functional island in the game. There's one viable currency to spend on, and that one currency is ridiculously overtuned. There's 8 islands that make shards at this point. I mean, 7 because Poison hasn't come out, but future tense. And the tribal mechanics aren't even good. Beyond people just inviting people and then just nuking the entire island off the face of the earth. You can get invited to other islands, but when you accept the invite, it doesn't even bring you to their island. You have to go get re-invited. It sucks. It's not good. It doesn't even do anything aside from give you store power and the occasional amount of diamonds. The point is, I think it needs a rework. If you rework in Tribal Island, might as well go throw Mimic in there. Not that crazy. And the last one is Mimic on some completely unrelated island. Now, there actually are 2 concepts we'll get to that could have Mimic on them. I mean, technically 3, but one of them's just Oasis again. Well, I mean, one of them's the next image on the line, but obviously this one's very dependent on what that island is. There are a decent amount of island concepts that could fit Mimic. So, if some of those islands have ever floated their boat, they may have another Mimic appearance. But I think the other 2 options are far more likely. So, out of hypothetical Mimic option number 1, Mirror Fire Islands. Now, this is kind of what it says on the tin. You get Mirror Haven, and Mirror Oasis. Now, the main thing about Mirror Fire Islands is they don't really have anything to be paired to. I mean, if you do a little, ethereal mouth calculation, then Furnos, because, there's five, not ethereal, celestials. Do the celestial math, five natural elements, five ethereal elements. They have celestials, the remaining two celestials are Furnos and Galvana. So you could pair those two together, have sort of an electricity theme, but like how precisely would that work? Like the mirror islands are the mirror islands. Like there's a whole alt history going on there. So there's not really anything electricity related in Dawn of Fire. So for like this in particular, said thing would kind of need to exist. And they could add it to Dawn of Fire at the same time, I suppose. We'll get to it a little later, but there's not much happening in Dawn of Fire territory. So it's like conceivable. But, eh. I don't know. Okay, and then moving forward are additional colossi. Now, as you know, it's been a good minute, a solid minute, since there's been a colossi. The last one, well, it was actually Earth Island. And that was like at least 2 years ago. Maybe more. And then they just kind of stopped and started making the Titan Souls. Now, obviously, Titan Souls are very spiritually colossi. Obviously, they're different, and they can put colossus on them because they're not colossals, they're titans. But I think sort of how this ties in the colossi is once we get to the last Titan Soul, what I could see them doing is going back to doing the colossi, since the Titan Souls are sort of their spiritual successor, even though the colossi weren't even done. Now, the part 2 of additional colossi that is hard is there's not many great islands for them to be on at this point. Like, I put Ethereal Workshop there because that's kind of the only, sane answer. Because it's how would they go on the Fire Islands? Because they're all the same colossal spirit. Islands like Bubbling Island or Tribal Island don't even have structures. So, how are those guys getting woken up? It's not even celestial, I guess it is. It's colossal. Yeah, stuff of that measure kind of makes the practically already awake stairway the only real option for colossi. So it's not much in terms of the new colossi category at the moment, but it's one that I could see happening soonish. But I think they would go back and refurbish the ones that already came out to be more Titan Soul-like. Because, Loki, the Colossal don't even do anything. They're just kind of there. So, yeah, I think that would happen before they'd go and make a new one. But, if they're in a Colossi mood, I figured they would make a new one. At least one. Kind of the only one. And the next up on the list is more magical islands. Now, the main thing with the magicals is already they're kind of the largest monster class in the game, and we don't even have an eighth of them. So it kind of becomes a thing. It's like, well, what do we even do with these? Now, what I pitched here in the image is essentially sort of like how the islands now have fire on all of them because they were the replacement for the fire islands. We didn't get that. So what I'm pitching here is since all the present ones have fire and none of them have air, what they could do is have all of the new. I mean, it wouldn't be necessarily all of the new magical islands, but like there are already only 7 non-magical breeding islands. So I don't know that they're gonna make like they made the magical islands to avoid making like 10 fire islands. I don't think they're gonna make 20 magical islands. But what they could do is do another set of 4 for each of the elements. So they're sort of like fire island adjacent in a way, where they each get 2. With air and the 2 other natural elements that weren't on the original island, so at least all of the magical doubles released. Of course, this has at least 5 different issues. Are they on new Titans? Do they get new Titan souls? Do they get the same Titan soul? Like, how are they going to get seasonals? What about fire expansion monsters? Like, there are a lot of things that are now on the magical islands. You know, paranormals, mirror monster, like mirror islands that kind of operate around the fact that there are only 4. So if they were to make another set of magical islands, it's like, well, now what? So, like, I don't think they'll never touch new magical monsters ever again. But if they were, there's a lot of other contingent content they're gonna have to work around. So it is way out there. Way out there. Okay, so next up are mythicals for the new islands. Now, of course, it's not the same new islands as before, because consistent phrasing is my specialty. But, you know, in this case, I mean, technically it's the same criteria as before, but I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. I could see this happening. I think more mythicals are on the table. Especially since Mythical Island works like Sugarbush Island. It's not like adding one mythical does not artificially inflate the monster count. But the whole thing with the mythicals, aside from the 2 original ones, is sort of like, you know, fan-made community collaborations. So there is an X factor to them, like there's an X factor to the legendaries. I can't just plonk them down and be like, that's the lot. Now, originally, like the way most of the original magicals came about was through a Kickstarter campaign. So it really depends. Like, I guess what I'm saying is I don't know how they'd go about creating the mythicals. If they'd all be like poll made, like Trombonin and Bazinga, or if they do another like Kickstarter giveaway type thing where they invite specific people to make one, or if they do some kind of new thing. I mean, there was whatever MPG was talking about way back, you know, like last anniversary month, that he said wasn't soon. But they'd also say it was this year, but they said Elder Celestials were coming out in 2024, so yeah, that's not a consistent set of words. Or they're not always tell their word. So this is another very dependent thing, but I think it is more likely than not likely. It's just when it happens is kind of up in the air. Okay, and then next up on the block are natural islets. Now I put islets in question marks because if they made natural islets and they were just, you know, 13 of natural only plant monsters, I think that would be a complete waste of time. Like, that would be lame. So, what I mean by natural islands, sort of like how I displayed in the image all of the plant element related monsters. It's sort of the same philosophy, but with fire monsters included and with magical monsters included. Um, which comes with one, technically two. I mean, one, and if I were making the islands a second concession, for starters, if you're having the magicals there, again, there are no air magicals. So there's just one island that has like 6 less monsters than the rest of them. That's if you're being picky. So if this were to happen, they would need to make air magicals. Like they did the islands that I made. I'm like, yeah, they could do natural islands, no problem. It would also be neat if the Celestials were there. But in like my head canon idea, like, because in lore, there's only one of each Celestial. They stonified way back on a fire time. So, but the point is, I've come to this idea of the elders being able to like project their form and be in more places at once. So that's how they'd be like on here and on the natural islands and wherever. It's not technically them. It's just like an image of them. But yeah, so like if that were true, then also all of the elder celestials would need to come out first. So like this is here because it's contingent on the other two things that are in that tier. So yeah, that's about that. And the next thing we have the new legendaries on Gold Island. Would be shocked if this doesn't happen at some point soon. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna add them in one batch. I do already have 3, but there's also like help menu advice about Blizzard at one point, so like who knows, but the point is not super difficult to add monsters to Gold Island. Especially since they come from the natural islands, and like, that's where the Gold Island monsters are from. Unelegantly speaking. Okay. Next up on the criteria is a new mirror island for fire monsters. Now, I used the continent here as an example of essentially one island that has every fire monster. Sort of like Amber, but like in a breeding sense. Now, in a technical sense, you would also need the other 5 natural monsters there to be able to do that. So it would basically just be the continent, but in the mirror timeline. But like I said back in the Mirror Fire Islands part, the Fire Islands in the main game are very lore dependent. So since the mirror timeline is sort of like an alternate version of the lore, it stands to reason they could do something like that. They could make a main game continent in the mirror timeline. And then at that point, why are you doing fire islands? It's like you got all the fire monsters in one place. Of course, that would be, the continent took a long time to come out. So I don't necessarily know that they do that. I guess it wouldn't be as big as present continent because that also has, all of the core seasonals or the mythicals. I mean, I guess breeding rules dictate this island would have that. All of the eligible monsters would be there, as well as all the legendaries. So it get very busy very fast, but I don't know. I'm kind of talking myself down from this. And also, these tiers are now in weird order because there's a tier of things I think would happen. Okay, I think I'm just gonna put this here because it's definitely later like down the scale on plausibility for my end. Like I'm not convinced. Like, it's not completely out of the realm of feasibility, but like, why? Like, the content already exists. You know, I gotta make a new one. Like, they updated Dawnfire to be almost playable recently, so like, I can just play that. Okay, next up on the list is another zapping island. Now, this is an idea that's sort of, gone around the blog recently. I think specifically because of Wublin spacecraft, which I hate spell Wublin spacecraft is pretty cool. This is not specifically that. I mean, the Wublin, or not the Wubblins, the ethereals are there for that reason, but I'm not the one predicting that for the main game. I mean, I can kind of see the logic, because, like, ethereal island Wubbox is technically a super ethereal, whatever that means. They have yet to elaborate. But, like, there is a logic that, you can zap ethereals. So, like, yeah, why wouldn't there be an ethereal zapping island? It's my issue with spacecraft. It specifically, from a gameplay perspective, it's just Wobbling Island again. I mean, to be fair, like, I watched the videos. No, it isn't. But, I mean, I don't know. I think if they're making another zapping island, it'd be like, well, I say there'd be a twist on it, but zapping's like the whole mechanics. How do you twist that? Okay, I'm going team not anytime soon. That require a lot of thought. For like a game. Because, to be fair, the regular Wobblins in the grand scheme of things. Like, what are they doing? Okay. Next up is a primordial island, or primordial islands, plural. I've seen people throw around both. In brief, while the primordials are not literally the same monsters as the plant singles, what would be the point of making a primordial island? Like, there are not that many concept monsters, and even the primordials themselves aren't strictly concepts. So, like, what are we doing? Like, what, are we gonna make a second plant water monster? That's stupid. That's dumb. So I'm putting that in the waste of time category. Especially if they made 5 of them, like, Jesus Christ. And, like, how did it even work? Like, I'm sort of getting back to primordials. I didn't even bring it up in the natural island section. They are technically statues. Like, they don't say anything about, like, oh, they're unstable or anything, but they do require memes to exist, so they're not exactly normal monsters. Just saying. I mean, that's more in their favor than against it, but the point is, I don't care. They can do something cool with the primordials, I feel like. Or just let them be on the islets and be cool on their own. There are things they can do to use the primordials without dedicating entire islands to them, is the point. Okay, and I think the last mimic adjacent thing here is the quints on natural islands. Now, since fire expansion was for every fire-related island, there is no version of fire expansion on natural islands. Now you could say, oh, they have Wordos, those other islands don't, aside from the fact that Haven has Wordos now. And of course, those the fire islands have less fire expansion monsters, but that's kind of besides the point. Like, what's up with that? They should have something of that caliber. And I think if they're having anything of that caliber, the quints are a pretty good answer, even though they are technically already on islands, all of them. Be a little weird. But this in either way. Like, I could see them doing this, though I'm not sure about the specifically work like fire expansion monsters. because they kind of already did that. Like, it'd be a little weird to call something fire expansion and then, like, a third of the monsters go to not even fire islands, but. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, they could have done it then. It wouldn't have been that strange. Okay, and then rare and epic legendaries. Now, I'm gonna make a bold call and put this in pretty likely. And there's two reasons for that. Beyond the fact that just most monsters have epics and legendaries, considering 90%, not 90%, 80%, 5, I can do the actual math on this one. Considering that 80% of the legendaries, and I guess this is not factoring in the Wardos, which, who knows? I can treat this prediction as just the 5 that will exist. Considering 80% of them are being made now in this current environment, and all they have to do is ask Christian Bush again, which they've done before to put Vane on Sugar Bush Island. I don't consider it out of the realm of possibility. Basically, especially even with the dipsters now having variants, most monsters get variants. So I don't think it is a crazy, wacky idea that the legendaries get variants. Now, this will probably enter the pretty soon matrix. Like, I mean, this might even be here. Like, if this were going to happen, I think it would happen very soon. But I can see it not happening, so, like, I'm not moving it up. Now, in terms of rare and epic paranormals, you can throw everything I just said out the window. Not entirely sure for the main reason that regular paranormals are already twice the work of every monster, basically. No, literally. And the whole point of the rare and epics is going to be easier content for every monster. I mean, not strictly at this point, but still. And with the paranormals, again, they're twice the work. And I mean, technically, the minor variants are like their variants. Like the minor monsters are already kind of a second form for them. So ultimately, actually, talking about it, to be honest, I think it would just be like kind of cool. I mean, they could not give paranormals variants at all. I wouldn't really mind. But I think if they were to get some, maybe just like one unique variant. But nothing about their mechanics would really make it impossible for them to get rares or epics. Like, I don't know, if there's. They're a very unique monster class, and I think they should get something very unique, sort of like how the Celestials have their own kind of variants. Next up, Sanctum Titan Soul. Now, this is in the either ways territory of like, as shown in the picture here, they already, like, the Titan Soul's already kind of awake with the Chantler. It's like, what would the Titan Soul on Sanctum even be? Because, like, the Chantler's kind of already the Titan Soul a little bit. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like, it's not like Enchantler can get a promotion. Or Chantler is the name of the island, actually. It's not like Enchantling can get a promotion because he's the quad. He can't just not have a quad. And that'd be weird. But like all the Titan Soul mechanics, like most of the Titan Soul mechanics are kind of already occupied on Sanctum. It's like every other magical island has one. I guess Sanctum's already kind of weird because they're not on Nexus, but it's also like why? Why aren't they on Nexus? So yeah, I don't know. It's very strange and bizarre. So I can see it going either way. All right, next up is kind of more of a Dawn of Fire prediction than anything, because like aside from I guess Amber Island, where does it even go in the main game? But the Hex. Now, I know they stated in the past that Wobox does the Hex. 6 element monster, impossible. Science doesn't know how to explain that. But literally this year during the debunker, they basically parroted every like anti-wub hex argument made and ultimately reached the conclusion of like, yeah, it's the hex for now, which kind of implicitly, like, I don't know, it kind of hinted at the direction of a real hex, so to speak. And like, not that it matters for the base game, but like, Dawn of Fire, what's going on there? Like, I mean, Epic Anglo comes out in like 2 days. So like once Epic Anglo is out, like what now? Like they've been doing a pretty decent job of keeping Dawn of Fire updated. I mean the content gets fairly slow rolling, but it gets some. Like obviously the main game's the priority, and I get it. But they at least try to add something to Dawn of Fire. But after this, it's like it's the new entire year of prismatics. Like what then? I think the hex is kind of on the table. You know what? I'm moving them pretty likely. Spoken myself into existence. I could go to Dawnfire, then we'll go to Amber Island. Yippee. Okay, and then on the topic of Nexus related things, the Titan Souls on Nexus. Really, I don't know how Titan Souls would work on Nexus. I mean, technically, it is transposing. Like what? Actually, I'm curious how expensive. Titan Souls. Here we go. Yeah, they're all 10 million coins. So, I mean, I guess Nexus is like things on Nexus are already really expensive. I mean, the main thing is you can't level a Titan Soul. So you can't get it to 18 to do the transposition, but I think they have alternate ways of making that work. Yep. I guess my question is, would they clutter the song too much? Like, the Titan Souls play their environment, but they're not in their environment. Celestis Air Shape is like gonna play you through them. I'm not really sure how that would go. But they are like functionally magic monsters. But at the same time, it's not like Gold Island has a Colossi at the moment, anyways. But again, you can't even play structures on Gold Island, so what's that about? Okay, now penultimate thing. Wordos on the magical islands. Now I have the CG5 Wordo here for the reason of I mean, like, his fifth Wordo, there are four other Wordos. You know, the rest of the Wordo combinations have been used. Except for Stewart and Magpie, I think. But, yeah, they could go on the way, it's just, who knows. In that case, I think it would make a lot of sense for the four other Wordo pairings. And this kind of excludes the second Firehaven monster, but I mean, hey, if they end up eventually doing those Magical Island expansions, or if they do the next set for the Magical Islands, then pretty good place for them. But yeah, I mean, either way, there are monsters you already buy for relics on the Magical Islands. They have a roughly equivalent amount of parts, but I think this one is a true goes either way. It's also like there are some degree of hate for the Wordos and like I'm kind of done with Magical Islands maybe. To be honest, I don't know. Like it's possible they are expanding the legendaries and they made a point of expanding the Wordo so far, but I don't like it's not there. I don't think they're gonna go full seasonal mode with them. I think that would be a bit much for Wordos. I think they should only be on breeding islands if they were to bring them to the magicals. Like that's a good stopping point. Okay, and then the final thing is a Wublin expansion. To be honest, I'm not gonna rate this off. This has gotten a little less likely since the Clubox has had a lot of Wublin appearances. But I think out of the classes to be expanded, Wublins are like second place to the Celestials. Because, yeah, I mean, the main thing with them is they're not really intrinsically about much. Like the Celestials, easy to knock out expansion wise. You already know where they're gonna go. With the Wublins, it's a bit more just kind of like vibes. Like Wublin Island is about to be finished. I mean, not necessarily soon, but I think by like 6 of them left or something. So like by next June, they're probably done. Like I could see next anniversary month, not this anniversary month, the anniversary month of next year being like Epic Island or Epic Wubbox for Theory, not Theory, for Wublin Island. Like I see that as pretty likely. So we'll be kind of like out of Wublin stuff soon. I guess how exactly would you get rare and epic Wublins? How do you even get common Wublins? Like I'm not zapping 40 million noggins all over again. I mean, I guess that's more of a celestial problem, but like, are you gonna zap them again? You gonna put them there for fun? Like, how would one get a Wublin somewhere else? Yes, there's a bit of a mystery, and like exactly how many Wublins would each island get? Because like there's 19, so it's a really obtuse number. So unless they just put one specific Wublin, like they put one only on a lot of islands, how that work? I don't know. Like I'm down on a conceptual level, but I'm not sure how exactly it would pan out execution wise. So with that being said, that is all 30 of them put down. Good phrase. I'm noticing all of the within a year things are Gold Island related. I guess my main logic is like Gold Island's not. Gold Islands are composed of pre-existing monsters, but less work. I guess to be fair to the dipsters, like, the few, like, I don't know, there'd be dipsters on Woodland Island, for instance. There's a couple islands that are kind of dipster proof. Yeah, the dipsters would go like Shanty, maybe, Workshop, probably, Mythical Island, kind of just those three. Carnival, I guess. That's like 4 islands. They could do that within a year. Congratulations, dipsters, you're getting promoted. And yeah. I guess the Hex. I guess the Hex is only going to Amber Island, whereas Lake Mimic and staying on one island for like 5 years. Then he would go here. I think either or. Yeah, I guess the Hex wouldn't technically be within a year. The Hex is like slightly more 1 full year prediction, maybe, unless he comes out this anniversary month. But yeah, that's about that. So revitalized, I think that's right. Some stuff that was pretty recent in scope. Some stuff that it sort of like would probably happen. And then a lot of things that were sort of on the fence. I guess the conclusion I get is looking at all of this. In terms of strictly new content, most of the stuff on the top row is building off pre-existing content. Like Mimic's already in the game, the new legendaries are already in the game. All of the ethereals exist. Dipsters are pre-existing monsters. The Hex, it has 62 other monsters backing up his existence. So in terms of things they sort of nail down, shockers, the things that fall under pattern, are a lot more predictable. As we work down the list, there are a lot of things that are contingent on other things. The Mirror Fire Islands, the concept of new islands existing, monsters that require other islands or show up on multiple islands, stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. Bold prediction. If you learned anything, win 5 legendaries is a bad idea. No, I'm just kidding. If you think there should be a Mech Island legendary, whatever. But I'm the Mobile Rager. Keep on monstering.